Former KGO radio sports director. He, as I say, I think he is KGO Hall of Fame. Rich Walcoff. What's up, Rich?
Mark, great to see you, hear you. It's been forever, buddy. But
it has been too long,
congrats on
pal.
all the good things going for you.
Thank you, man. That's so nice. Well, you're really kind to give us a few minutes, and I won't abuse the privilege here, but I can't even think of the Niners. For my era, when I was listening to the Niners games on the radio regularly, I can't think of them without thinking of you. You know, so it's only fitting that in this latest march to the Super Bowl, we talk to you. Now, this game yesterday was, it was a tale of two halves, I guess, and all that stuff. But I wonder if you can sort out what happened. It looked to me like the Niners didn't show up for the first half. They were getting blown out.
Yeah, well, they got jumped on. The Lions schemed them phenomenally, and Jared Goff had time to throw because the 49ers were playing kind of that shell coverage. Don't get beaten over the top. They weren't aggressive. They didn't turn them loose. And Jared Goff picked them apart. And the running, I mean, I think the Lions had almost 160 yards rushing in the first half. That's the most a Kyle Shanahan team has ever given up. But at halftime, I guess the youth and inexperience of the Lions with the grit and gutty determination of the 49ers, they flipped the switch. I've got whiplash because that game was so schizo. But, you know, you dropping balls left and right. Dan Campbell, who gets gobs of credit for turning an awful franchise into a contender in 2.5 years, made some bonehead decisions to forego field goals.
You thought that there were key moments consistent with Campbell's general disposition, you know, as a gunslinging type coach, where he didn't go for the field goal. Instead, twice.
You know, during the regular season is one thing, and I know you do what got you there is the mentality. But when you're in a championship game in the playoffs, the mentality changes. I remember Bruce Bochy in the World Series pitching Madison Bumgarner 5 1/3 innings of relief to close out Game 7 against the Royals in 2016 to win their third championship. You throw out the book, you play the moment, and it's different in the playoffs where there's no tomorrows. And Campbell had a chance to go up 27-10 in the third quarter, spurned a field goal, went for it on 4th and 2, got stopped, and that kind of jump-started the Niner comeback. And it happened again later in the game where he spurned a field goal to go up by a
that was to tie the game, wasn't it? Was that to tie the game? Didn't he?
Yeah, late. And of course, what did Brenda Ayuk say after catching the bounce ball off the face mask of the defensive back of the Lions at the 5-yard line? He goes, "There was a ladybug on my shoe. Just living large." I mean, who would have fathomed this comeback?
Tony is with us today, who runs a lot of the technical stuff and makes stuff happen. Tony, you have of him actually? Are you saying that? Is that what you said? Were you saying, Tony?
Thanks, Tony.
Here it is, Rich. This is Ayuk actually commenting on that, I think.
Before the game, a ladybug landed on my shoe. And y'all know what that means. So that's all I can say, because other than that, I don't know.
That was unreal. Just the best.
Oh,
just
my
the
gosh.
Best.
Well,
so, yeah, those were extraordinary catches. And then to be perfectly blunt about it, Detroit, they dropped key passes. I mean, there was a 3rd and 9 they dropped, a couple of clean. I mean, Goff was playing well, I thought. He had a good game.
Yeah. Reynolds dropped a couple. Ross St. Brown, the Pro Bowler, dropped one. It was just a calamity of misfortune for the Lions, they had this game. All they had to do was take care of business. Now, I must say, Christian McCaffrey, you know, rose up in the second half. He couldn't buy a yard in the first half, and he rocked in the second half. And the Niner offensive line protected Brock Purdy in the second half much better. And then Purdy doing his
that's
baby Joe Montana impersonation, spinning away from trouble and making things happen with his legs. So they
I
lived
mean,
a kind of a charmed life in the Lions' collapse and their resurgence. I can't fathom how the Niners are favored in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, but the early line has them a 2.5 point advantage over KC.
yeah, you saw it pointed out here in the chat. Purdy threw an interception the first half. Yeah, and then he became this, as you suggest, a Montana-esque yard rusher on the ground, and as well as you've also said, kind of buying time with rollouts and improv moves. I mean, very Mahomes-like, Mahomes or Montana-like, where you're rolling around looking. And then you just flick the ball. To Juszczyk was that one remarkable catch.
Beautiful catch. Beautiful catch. Yeah. And he
more.
He was rolling left and threw back the other way, which is the proverbial cardinal sin. But Purdy has shown this in the past. He's very innovative and on the improv and on the rollout. He's got a good sense of going through his progressions and reading the field. So, is he a Hall of Famer? I don't think so. But look, he's got his team in the Super Bowl. And you tip your cap because it sure didn't look like it was going to happen at halftime yesterday.
Well, and one of the reasons, and then I will let you, you're so kind to spend time there talking to Rich Walcoff, the former KGO radio sports director, so much a part of the Niners DNA when it came to broadcasting those games for so long. It's just so funny that in a league where the quarterbacks are really the center of attention, and I understand why. You got these Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, even Goff, who throws this beautiful ball, or Stafford, in Los Angeles. All of these, they are larger than life, and they're so much a part of the conversation. And in San Francisco, Christian McCaffrey's part of the conversation. And so Goff isn't that electrifying guy, but wow, he does bring a lot of capabilities. I don't think you win the game with just anybody else.
Well, you mean Purdy?
Purdy, yeah, Purdy. I'm sorry, yeah, Purdy.
Hey, you win the game because the Lions mishandled the football. The Lions strategy, went down the tubes, and the 49ers were opportunistic like they were the last week before against the Packers. They played 3 terrible quarters. So they,
you're right. I'd forgotten about that. This is kind of their this is kind of their deal, isn't it?
Well, this is not a good formula because the Packers were the youngest team ever in Green Bay history to make the postseason. The Lions hadn't been in a playoff game in, half a lifetime. And all those guys were newbies. The coach was a newbie. You're taking on a 2-time Super Bowl champion Chiefs team, and Andy Reid, the brilliant strategist offensively. Steve Spagnuolo, what a defensive coordinator the Chiefs have. And he absolutely throttled and stymied Lamar Jackson in Baltimore to upset the Ravens, the top seed there. So the Niner task gets a whole lot more challenging in the Super Bowl than it was these last couple of weeks.
That's such a great call. And I want to just, last thing, touch on that Ravens game in a second, since we are going to deal with the Chiefs next. But somebody had something for you. Rich Walcoff, what happened to the 49er defense in the fourth quarter? They let Detroit score. Gave me a heart attack. Lions were playing hard, almost lost it.
Well, they were up by 10, so they were in a shell again. They were, bend, don't break, everything in front of you. Don't give up the big home run ball, which they didn't until the final play. But that was 1 minute to go. They got the onside, they recovered the onside kick and then played out the clock. You just don't want to give up a big strike home run ball, and they didn't. I'm not a big fan of Steve Wilks, the defensive coordinator, because I think he belies the instinct of this team defensively. Their mentality is attack and be aggressive and pursue, and he has them in zone and more of a read and react mode. And I think it's hurt them in 2 playoff games. They were able to escape with wins, but not convincingly, and only by the skin of their teeth against the Packers and the Lions. Can't play that way against Patrick Mahomes. You've got to get after him. And you saw, well, you pick your poison on that. You get after Mahomes and he can run away or, make great throws. But I think that the Niners play their best when they're in more of an aggressive, blitz-oriented attack mode. But that's not Steve Wilks' MO.
No, interesting. Really interesting. And they may have to re-scheme for the for the Super Bowl. So just because you mentioned Mahomes, that game also seemed to be marked by self-destruction. I mean, I'm thinking of how the Ravens completely self-destructed on the last drive. You know,
Well,
Flowers where they.
Yeah, true, but it doesn't happen in a vacuum, Mark. The pressure that Lamar Jackson was under, the coverage, the Kansas City defense is overlooked and underestimated. They are the best defense that Andy Reid has ever had in his 8 years there in Kansas City. They just get after you. They cover. They got Pro Bowl corners, Pro Bowl caliber safety. And the scheme that Spagnuolo designs is very, very evolved. They made Lamar Jackson look mortal, and that's hard to do because he's your MVP in waiting. I mean, he's going to be the MVP for the regular season. He surely didn't look it yesterday at all.
Such a great call. Yeah, they made this guy look mortal, right? So the Niners are a slight favorite in the Super Bowl, even as they had to have a perfect second half, and they had it. I mean, unprecedented 27 unanswered second half points.
Crazy.
And so it'll be February 11th. Maybe if you're available, February 12th, we'll talk about it.
You got it, buddy. I'll gladly join you. Thanks. Great catching up with you, Mark.
Yeah, and right back at you. It's such a cool thing to be able to talk to you again. Rich Walcoff. Thanks, Rich. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.